All right, good morning, guys. Welcome to this week's episode. Lots of fun stuff playing with the new epoxy.
Yeah, playing with the new epoxy. So the importance of doing a peel test is kind of what we're going over this week.
We're doing lots and lots of tests, trying to get used to this product and also working with the conditions that we've got here. There's a lot of moisture in the morning. I don't know if we can show you the boat, but we're covered in dew, basically. Yeah. And there's higher humidity later in the day. So we're going through a few different bits, so stay tuned on that for this episode and also a little bit on the next one.
Hi, I'm Erica, and this is my fiance Dave. We are living aboard our new to us hurricane-damaged catamaran, Barefoot 2.0. We met in Fiji 3 years ago and have experienced so many beautiful places together. For the past 2 years, we've made the ocean our home, starting on our Catalina 36 in the States and the Northern Caribbean. We hope to one day circumnavigate the globe, but for now we are fixing our boat one step at a time. Subscribe to our channel to follow our journey. When faced with a challenge, look for a way, not a way out.
Okay, so here we have the container that Isaac has kindly lent us. This is all our supplies that we just picked up. We got the silica filler. What else we got? We got some thinners for paints. We got what paint was this again? This one was the epoxy barrier coat. In here we've got resin, we've got matting. Here we've got white pigment for resin. We've got more resin, and more paint. So lots of good supplies in here. So what I'm going to do now though is I'm going to pull out a gallon of resin, so part A and part B. We're going to go and have a little bit of a mix with it, and we're going to do a peel test to make sure it sticks nice and hard to our hull before we start doing any big repairs with it. So give me a second, let me pull some of this out, we'll take it back to the boat, chuck it on the table, mix a little bit up. Alright, so I've just tested up, I'm just testing up some of the new epoxy resin. I've just mixed a tiny amount. I basically, it's about 20 mil, and this is 25% catalyst, so 5 mil of catalyst, 20 mil of resin. Mixing it up. Before I start doing a big repair, this is brand new resin I've never worked with before, so I want to test it first. So what we've done, I've just cleaned this area up here with some acetone, nice and clean this area. This is nicely stirred and mixed in. This should have about a 33-minute life, pot life, if you will. That's what I was told in the store. So we're just going to use one little piece of matting. I'm going to put it on here and do like we did before. If you remember back when I was working with the rudder, we will be doing a peel test. So we're going to do that, let it dry overnight, and then tomorrow we'll come back and check it. If it sets nice and hard, sticks well to our boat, then we'll fix the rest of the boat. But not taking any chances. Let's give it a go. Oh, it's runny.
That can be good, can be bad.
I like it, Lynn. I like when the resin's quite thin because you can thicken it. Yes. You can put silica in with it. So it's slightly thinner than the West system that we're used to working with. But thin is good. It goes. See how quickly that goes through the matting?
Oh yeah.
It uses hardly any resin. Literally, I didn't even have to pre-wet that out. So that has now gone on beautifully. But I'm just going to peel the end back, guys, so that we've got something to pull on tomorrow. So we'll just let that end hang off. Make sure there's no air bubbles in there. That's all sitting nicely. There we go. We'll let that cure, see how it looks in the morning. Okay, so as a second part of the peel test, last time I just did this as one because we were using a different system. But checking it now this morning, we put this on about 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. It's now morning. This is tacky, very, very tacky. The peel is stuck pretty good. With fingers, I can't pull it off. So it's definitely going to work. But percentage-wise, we were told we can use this resin from anywhere between 25% to 33%. So I did this first one at 25%. The little bit I left in the pot afterwards, it has cured overnight and left me a nice solid little piece of resin, slightly tacky on one side. The thin stuff that I put on the boat with the peel test is definitely still tacky. The fact that it's still tacky is good in a way because it means I could continue laminating with it. It's nice and slow. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw together another pot at 33%. This is where we're supposed to get a 30-minute pot life. So let's do another peel test next to this one. I've got an area here which is nice and tacky. So we'll chuck another peel test here with 33%, and we'll look also at what we get left in the pot after that 30 minutes. So it's all experiments at the moment, but with this being a completely new resin to me, I want to know exactly what my conditions are going to be or timings are going to be, so that I can keep going with the chemical bond. Instead of having to sand afterwards, clean it and all that sort of stuff, so that then I can continue with a mechanical bond. So let's give this a go. Let's mix up a pot, just a small one, just as a second experiment. All right, again, that's gone on, and it's using hardly any resin. It's a lovely thin resin. Another part experiment I think I'm going to do, because I want to see how quickly this cooks in the pot. So I'm going to leave some in the pot rather than put it onto the boat. I'm going to pour a little bit into another cup, and then I'm going to mix it with a bit of the silica, so see how it thickens up, and we'll play with it in that way as well. So it's all experiments this morning, and then hopefully this afternoon we'll crack on with some of the repairs. Okay, so I've mixed in a little bit of Cavaseal, which is a very, very cheap product here to get by the pound. Mixed it up a little bit like peanut butter sort of thickness. It doesn't run off the mixer. This is used as an adhesive filler with this. It's very similar, I think, to the West System 406. I think for the, I might have to change that on the video shoot. I just want to spread a little bit of that out, see how it sets. I'm going to leave some in the pot, find out what my pot life is. But again, this is with the 33% mix. So let's see what it is. Conditions today, by the way, it's quite cool this morning, but temperature is building. Humidity's not very high this morning. So all of these things need to be taken into consideration when I'm working somewhere between 25 and 33%. Alrighty guys, so a bit of a moment of truth here. So I've been doing some experiments with the new epoxy. Little just flashback to what we did. So the first peel test that I did with 25%, this is now about 36 hours since it's been put on. It's no longer tacky. Yesterday it was still tacky. The 24-hour point, it was still tacky. But the adhesion was great. Off camera, I was pulling at it just to see what it was going to be like to film it, and the tabbing actually ripped off. It wouldn't come off the hull at all. So the lamination strength, great. Dry time, very, very slow. Coming across here, which is the 33% ratio. So this is now it's now been drying for about 22 hours. Yesterday evening, I checked it around 7 o'clock. It's now about 8 o'clock in the morning, day after. Yesterday evening, it was still tacky, but only very slightly tacky. This morning, I'm not feeling any tackiness around the area. It's feeling pretty good. And the peel test itself, it's not gonna, yeah, it's gonna rip off. It's ripping off. This part here, to be honest, I was actually playing with it and it started to delaminate before I'd actually let it dry. No, that delamination, it's still delaminating. Alrighty, so I need to look into that a little bit more and make some decisions. This part here, that is also a very thin mat with a tiny little bit of resin on it. That was hardly nothing. This here is what I made up with some silica to make like a putty for adhesive repairs. That's pretty solid and stuck. So I would say we have a result with some usable, yeah, that's good. She's solid under there. It's just the fact that this was only a 4-ounce mat that I used for the test. That's why it ripped so easy. But that there, that is that's adhered. So I'm going to do one last test to check that it is 100% cured, and that is to make sure that it doesn't absorb moisture. So I'm going to let the temperature just warm up a little bit. It's still a bit cold this morning. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a very wet rag, going to slap it over this area. I'm going to leave it there for about an hour or so. Then when I remove it, there shouldn't be any areas which are basically looking like cloudy, milky, whitey color. So otherwise that means the resin is still accepting moisture. Okay, so I'll do that and we'll come back to it a little bit later on today. Okay guys, as I mentioned earlier, we talked about doing the experiment, the final experiment after what we believe is cured because it's not tacky anymore. So what we've done is put a wet cloth onto the what we think is cured epoxy. So you can see the way I've done it here. I've just held a piece of, it's actually a piece of Perspex, just to hold a wet cloth against it. This is the side with the 25%, with the 33%. And I just used a rudder stock and a paddle to hold it up there. So let's do the, well, we'll give it an hour and then we'll do a reveal. Okay, so we've given it a good full hour, maybe slightly more. And now let's reveal. Do you want to point the camera over there? Yep. And we'll all find out together if this is working or not. Color has not changed. Perfecto. Okay, so it's not absorbing any moisture in there. This would have gone a milky white color if it was absorbing water inside. This is just a sanded area that I did yesterday. It was looking exactly the same before I put the wet cloth on. So I'm happy with this. That means we can start repairing the boat. So I suppose I've got no more excuses now. I've got to fix this boat. Also guys, say hi to Temptress. We've come over today. We're going to be doing a little bit of filming for a bit of a Christmas card or Christmas special. We're gonna have a bit of fun wearing stupid hats, bit of dancing around. So anyway, stay tuned for that. That's coming up in the next few weeks. So yeah, having a bit of Christmas fun today. So we're gonna leave it there, not telling you any more. Okay, so another little project I'm working on this morning. I'm working on the waterline. So basically when we sanded off the bottom paint, we didn't actually mark up the waterline, but you're never going to pick it up on the camera. In most places there is actually a line. You can see it in certain lights. I'm sure we cannot pick this up on the camera. We can try. But where I've picked it up, and so what I've done is I've marked the waterline up 9 centimeters higher. So, and you see on this side here, I've actually put the tape. Now the reason I put the tape 9 centimeters higher is, one, because I'm using this little spatula here, and I'm just going to hold it up like that on the waterline and then mark at the top so I can put the tape up. Reason being for this, we're working under the waterline first, and what I want to do is I want to be able to, when I spray the epoxy barrier coat on, I want to get a layer that goes higher than the waterline. So we're getting that 9 centimeters there. So when we spray all the way up here with the epoxy barrier coat, waterline is here. Once that's dried, we will move the tape. We're going to use a laser line to remark the waterline using this tape 9 centimeters down. We'll get a perfect straight line, because my line's not perfectly straight at the moment. It's pretty good. Once we brought that down, we'll do the bottom paint, and then above, when I start to spray, so I've decided to spray the rest of the boat also with an epoxy barrier coat, the complete hull. Reason for this being, one, I can use it as a primer. Two, it's a great protective to go underneath the new paint. We're going to be painting the boat. So that brings me to another question. Does anyone have the ability to show our boat with different paint jobs on it? We know what we're doing for epoxy barrier coat and also for bottom paint. We've got all that sorted out, but we don't want to be another white catamaran in the harbour, because they're all white. We want to do a paint job in a certain colour. I'm not telling you which one. And then also what we want to do is, well, what I want to do, and I haven't convinced Erica yet, is to put a stripe on the boat. And again, not telling you the colour. So I want to be able to see, does anyone have the ability to show us this on computer graphics? So that person there, I would tell them my ideas, and maybe we can adjust it, get Erica's input, so we get a final paint job that Erica's happy with and I'm happy with. So anyone wants to jump in with a bit of help, has a computer program that can do that for us, please let us know, okay? Drop us a message and we'll get back to you.
Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Press that subscribe button. For everyone who has subscribed, thank you so much. Our numbers are going way up. Maybe we'll hit 20k soon. Who knows? We're hoping so. We're hoping. We're on a roll.
Okay guys, so if you also haven't found our Patreon site, go and check that out. Erica's been working super hard to give Patreon lots of extra content and different stuff. So go check it out and see if you want to support us in that way.
And thank you to all of our patrons who have been supporting us so far. You've made it possible for us to continue our adventure, so thank you very, very much.
Okay, after doing the test with the epoxy resin that we've got here, I've decided to move back across to the port side hull and do a repair. Now this repair here that I'm looking at, it's not actually, it was a very shallow delamination, a couple of spots. It's a large area, but it was just delamination. It's not a very thick repair. So I'm going to use it on here, let it dry for 24 hours. So I'm going to lay up a couple of layers of glass on this area here. It's been peeled and I've given it a light sanding over, so it should be nice and ready for adhesion. It still needs cleaning, so I'll give it a clean first, and then we're going to layer about 3 layers of very thin matting. I'm going to go with the 4-ounce matting, 3 layers of it. Lay it over this area here, give it 24 hours, let it cure. This is an experiment area that I want to use this new resin on. The main reason for that is that there isn't actually cracking in the hull. So I don't actually have any holes or anything that I need to fill. I want to see how a larger area, mixing up larger batches of this stuff works. Pretty happy with it. It's definitely working. It's definitely passing its tests. But let's start on this one rather than moving to the other side where I've got some, you know, some bigger, deeper cracks to work with. Let's start with something a bit simpler. So let's crack on with this one. That will also give me the opportunity on this hull that I would then have done both the repairs on either side of the keel, so then we can start to grind back the keel, make sure there's no liquids in there, no moisture in there, and we can start to do the keel on this side as well. Sorry that I'm jumping backwards and forwards between hulls, but a lot of this is experimentation, different materials that we can get here, so bear with me and let's see what we can do with this. So let's go for a thin patch repair on some thin, not thin, shallow delamination is probably the better word. Okay guys, so I'm mixing up 60 milliliters at 33%, 19.8 ml. This surface is also curved and down. I'm gonna wet it out first, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a little bit of silica in there first. So I've got some silica I'm gonna add to this, just to thicken it up slightly, because I don't want everything just to run off before I get any chance to work with it. So as you can see now, I can still paint this on, but because I've thickened it up with a little bit of silica, it's not running down the hull. This epoxy, it seems to be great stuff, but if I just put it on pure without the silica, literally it will run down the hull and just drip onto the floor. So thickening it up is giving us a better working surface, so I can just wet out the area I want and not lose everything on the floor. I will go back to the standard non-thickened once I start putting some matting on, because the matting will then hold it. But at the moment, just to wet it out, definitely wanted to thicken it out just a touch. Again, on this side of the hull, it's the same as the other side, with the damage that I need to work on around the keel. So I'm doing this section here just purely for strength. This area down below and to the keel, this is where I'm going to put a lot of extra strength into the boat, because we're not happy with all the reports we've heard about the fontaines, that sometimes people they're supposed to be designed to be beached. I've mentioned this before, but some people have tried beaching them, and what's happened is they folded the keels. So we're going to strengthen the keels up. They're not going to be sacrificial keels, they're actually going to be keels that are going to be nice and strong. You're going to be able to put this thing actually onto a beautiful little Caribbean beach and, you know, have a nice afternoon barbecue. Alright, that's nicely wetted out, so I'm going to go and just take a couple of measurements, grab a bit of matting. As I said, just 3 layers. Still got a bit of resin here. I'm going to chuck that somewhere else on the boat first, and then we'll come back. We know we've got loads of pot life with this stuff, so got plenty of time to work with it. Just drip resin on my toe. I'm going to be pulling hairs out my foot tonight. Alright, so we've got our 3 layers on there. I used 2 layers of 4-ounce matting, and then I laid in the opposite direction, the last one, sorry the battery was going dodgy on the camera, I laid a 6-ounce in a different direction. So it's more like a biaxial rather than a matting, because I'm layer for layer for layer. This was a very, very light or very thin, what's the right way to describe it? The delamination wasn't very deep into the hull. I didn't need to go much further than the peeling. I only had to do 2 or 3 layers with the peeling. So these 3 layers of glass on here now is probably even too high. I'm probably gonna have to sand it back actually to get the hull shape. But in this area, I do want to build up strength more than anything else. I mean, the shape of the hull, if it's not 100% perfect, I want strength. We're not trying to win any races here. We're talking a 36-foot catamaran. We're not trying to win a round the world trip. So yeah, I think this is going to be good. So we're going to let this one set for tonight and check it out in the morning. This is the first go with the epoxy on a large surface. And we'll actually be able to put this thing on a. That sounded terrible. You're going to have to edit that, Erica.